Hi everyone, this is Religiolog, and today I want to talk about the war in Ukraine, how religion and religious rhetoric is involved in this war, and how Russia went from the idea of demilitarization of Ukraine to the idea of desatanization of Ukraine. Recently, a number of high-ranking Russian figures, from Patriarch Kirill to Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, have come out with statements that Russia is fighting in Ukraine against Satanists or the Antichrist himself. On Friday, November 4, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who is currently a deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, described Moscow's invasion of Ukraine as a secret conflict with Satan. He also said that Russia's task in the invasion was to stop the supreme ruler of hell, whatever name he might go by, Satan, Lucifer or Iblis. On September 30, Vladimir Putin accused the entire Western Civilization of Satanism. The suppression of freedom in the West itself has taken on the features of a religion, outright Satanism. After Putin's speech, the boogeyman of Satanism flooded the pro-government media. Western civilization today is the vanguard of Satanism. I am absolutely sure that Western civilization is paving the way for the Antichrist. Satan came out to fight with us. This is maybe the last battle against the huge Orthodox civilization. This is absolutely satanic regime. What is it, political Satanism? What are we fighting with, and how can we defeat it? This is the war of heaven against hell. This is the war of the angelic armies. This is the war of the army of Archangel Michael against the devil, where Ukraine serves as the battlefield. I swear with the Almighty's name, this is the Big Jihad which we must all take part in, and we will not stop. By the way, would you like all of your sins to be forgiven? There is a way. The head of the Russian Orthodox Church claimed on November 25th that if you die in that war, then it will be considered a sacred sacrifice and all of your sins will be forgiven. Commenting on this war, Professor Kirill of University College Stockholm stated to Washington Post, "Any war has to have guns and ideas. In this war, the Kremlin has provided the guns, and I believe the Church is providing the ideas." In his book Russian Nuclear Orthodoxy, published by Stanford in 2019, Dmitry Adamsky states, "Faith has also saturated Russian nuclear military-industrial complex. Each leg of the nuclear triad has its patron saint, and their icons hang on the walls of the consecrated headquarters and command posts. Between each big base there is a garrison church, chapel or prayer room. Nuclear priests are integrated in professional activities through the whole chain of command and join the flock during operational missions on the ground and underwater." In general, I recommend Dr. Adamsky's book, and if you want to know more about the relationship between religion and politics in Russia, you may also check these authors. And I also highly recommend Yale course on the history of Ukraine by Yale historian Timothy Snyder. In those lectures, he also shares about the big role that religion has played in the history and politics of Ukraine and Russia. But let's get back to the war in Ukraine. Many people around the world are shocked. Why do so many people in Russia support this war? Well, if you think about it only as a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it's one thing. But it seems as Russia's government, in its attempt to justify their failures and in order to mobilize population to their side, went as far as declaring it a holy war. If you see it as a providential holy war between good and evil, where you fight on the side of God against Satan, then it makes more sense. Remember what Dmitry Medvedev said on November 4? He warned that his country was capable of sending all our enemies to fiery hyena, to which Jesus referred. "We are listening to the words of the Creator in our hearts and will obey them. These are the words that give us our sacred purpose, the purpose of stopping the Supreme Lord of Hell, whatever name he might go by, Satan, Lucifer or Iblis, for his purpose is death." So in his mind, Russia seems to fight messianic battle with Satan himself. We also see how Vladimir Putin declares holy war on Western Satanism. He said, "They, the West, are moving toward open Satanism." But what is Satanism to him? First of all, gender policy. He states, do we really want here in our country, in Russia, instead of mom and dad, to have parent number 1, parent number 2, number 3? Have they gone completely insane? Do we really want it drilled into children in our schools, that there are supposedly genders besides women and men? But the paradox here is that we don't have any indication that Putin himself is a believer. He is a product of secular Soviet school, he is a politician, and in a way he has to use religion in his favor. To my knowledge, he never mentioned Jesus and he never publicly admitted that he believes in God. No doubt that many Russians see him as a sort of messianic figure, but does he think this way? What about Dmitry Medvedev? Why is he using this religious rhetoric? Does he really take the Book of Revelation seriously? Previously he already quoted from that book. In August, in an interview with the French TV channel LCI, Medvedev said that the first angel already sounded his trumpet. On the other occasion, he mentioned that we should not wait for the 4 horsemen of apocalypse, and even said about Western nations that everything will be on fire around them. Their people will harvest their grief in full, the land will be on fire and the concrete will melt. Then he cited a Bible verse from Revelations 9:18. A third of mankind was killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke and sulfur that came out of their mouth. I want to remind you that this is the deputy chairman of the Security Council of Russia and Russia's former prime minister and president. More and more we hear how Russian clergy members, politicians and journalists refer to this war as a holy war, pointing that in reality Russia is fighting not with Ukraine. This is a historic providential heavenly battle of Russia that represents the side of God against the Satanic West that is guided by satanic values that are destroying traditional families with its LGBTQ propaganda. For some reason, in the rhetoric of propagandists, Satanism is often associated with representatives of LGBTQ community and the protection of their rights. Nazis, Satanists and Shaitans will get you. Who is fighting against us? People who say that their God is Satan. Satanists are at war with us. People who impose on us that you and I must attend LGBT parades. In that picture, Satan, through the hands of Western countries, is trying to steal Ukraine from God's holy realm, and all that Russia is doing is serving as a tool in God's hands. God is using Russia as a weapon to protect his kingdom. Moreover, the whole world is falling in the hands of Satan, and Russia is the only hope for the world. This is the only place where God still dwells and tries to save it from the devil by relying on the President Putin and the only true Russian Orthodox Church that protects God's true ethics, that is centered on true family values. Back in 2020, Russians got new constitution, and what is interesting is that new constitution defines marriage as the union of a man and a woman, so it's strategically ruling out gay marriage. Also, they included the word God in the document that wasn't there before, pledging to safeguard the memory of forefathers who passed on their ideals and faith in God. Of course, it sounds like I'm exaggerating, and maybe I am in a sense, but let me give you a couple more examples. Bishop Peterim in his sermon compares Europe with Sodom and Gomorrah. According to him, Ukraine wants to be a part of European Union only to get external benefits and better lifestyle. At the same time, it could be a disaster for their spiritual well-being, because according to Bishop Peterim, the modern collective West is full of adultery. It is based on immoral satanic culture, and the only reason it prospers because God doesn't care about them. The logic is next. If you suffer, then this is an expression of God's love. God punishes those whom he loves. And now God is punishing Ukraine by using Russians as a weapon in his hands. But God does it only because he loves Ukraine and doesn't want it to be a part of European Union, because it is a culture of Antichrist, which the Heavenly Father does not love and therefore does not punish. That is why these Western countries live prosperously. In the end, these countries will be punished in such a way that they will have no future, neither the United States nor the collective West. They have one future, the kingdom of Antichrist. The USA is the whore of Babylon that revels in the blood of Christians. Speaking of this war, Archpriest Andrei Tkachov states, Many people have already died in order for the world to live according to God's plan, but not Satanic plan. They have already built a large satanic village, in which there is one boss with stars and stripes, meaning the US, who teaches everyone to live a satanic lifestyle, and there is only one country in the world that resists them. This is Mother Russia. And the Russian soldiers suffers for everything. As always, a simple Russian soldier takes the rap for everything in history. So again, we see the narrative that there is an evil Satanic West that is trying to impose a satanic lifestyle on the whole world, and Russia is the only remaining outpost that keeps resisting and fighting on God's side. I can bring many more similar examples to demonstrate it, but I think you got the point. By the way, if you are interested in watching more similar examples, please watch this video on my channel. Here I show how the Russian Orthodox Church cooperates with Russian military forces and how its representatives justify the war against Ukraine. There is even a poem by Orthodox priest dedicated to Putin where he compares Putin with Moses, obviously hinting at his providential messianic role. Almost every day we see in the media how Russian Orthodox priests come and give spiritual guidance to soldiers, they bless them with the holy water and sometimes even instruct them how to use weapons. To them it is obviously an ideological war between good and evil. For example, here is a priest that instructs soldiers how to load ammo into a clip. He states, "What we see now is first of all a spiritual war, because Antichrist is attacking Holy Russia, the Orthodox faith. Therefore, I want to teach you how to load bullets correctly, so that bullet will hit the enemy, but not the air." Holy Fathers teach us next way. When you take a bullet, you insert it with such words. Holy Mother of God, save us. Holy Father Nicholas, pray God for us. Holy Mother of God, save us. Holy Father Nicholas, pray God for us. But as you may see, it doesn't come only from simple priests somewhere in rural parts of Russia. No, as you may see, even the head of the Russian Orthodox Church and high-ranking officials are promoting such a narrative. Patriarch Kirill, while opening the 24th Congress of the World Russian People's Council, announced the imminent appearance of the Antichrist and the end of the world, and stated that President Putin is the one who fights against this evil. Russia also has millions of Muslims, and to many of them, Putin's warlord, Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, serves as an example. Kadyrov declares Ukraine war the Big Jihad and urges Muslims to rise up and fight demons. He raged, "I swear with the Almighty's name, this is the Big Jihad which we must all take part in, and we will not stop. We will be killing them wherever they are, no matter who is helping them, America or Europe." In the West, Satanism is openly acting against Russia. Satanic democracy is when the rights of atheists are protected but believers are offended, or when traditional couples are deprived of children who are transferred to the same-sex families. Intentionally same-sex, not by chance. In Europe, they have swallowed it. They consider it modern, civilized. And I see degradation and Satanism in this. And I'd rather fight it in the bud than let this abomination envelop our motherland here. Kadyrov also promised that anyone signing up to fight in Ukraine would get to kill shaitans, an Islamic word meaning evil spirit or demon. Again, we see the use of the boogeyman of LGBT. In addition, Alexei Pavlov, Assistant Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, claimed that the desatanization of Ukraine, where hundreds of sects allegedly now operate, is becoming increasingly urgent. In his opinion, the new authorities turn Ukraine from a state into a totalitarian hypersect. He concluded, "I believe that with the continuation of the special military operation, it becomes more and more urgent to carry out the desatanization of Ukraine, or as the head of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, aptly put it, its complete deshatanization." On one hand, many Russians do not buy this rhetoric simply because they are secular, but many, even after understanding it as an allegory and metaphor, still seems to support such an approach. And here I want to emphasize that during the first months of the war, Russian propaganda explained the invasion of Ukraine in terms of demilitarization and denazification. But for many Russians it was hard to understand and swallow. The idea that Ukraine is run by drug-addict Nazis didn't get too much popularity. So at some point the religious component was added to propaganda and desatanization rhetoric appears. Approximately starting from June, on the Russian media we find reports depicting Ukrainian soldiers as open Satanists who practice ritualistic sacrifice. Some media went as far as claiming that American Satanists, who are part of the Special Task Force, came to Ukraine to fight against Russians, and they kind of have an ideological influence on Ukrainian soldiers. Russian media began to spread ideas that the Ukrainian army is governed by satanic and occult ideas. But since they didn't have enough proof to defend this narrative, with the time it faded away and the focus had shifted to the collective Satanic West. Now the enemy was the collective Western countries that are going against the will of God and embrace satanic culture. Therefore, we must save our Ukrainian brothers and sisters that are brainwashed by this satanic propaganda. They want to sacrifice their spiritual heritage for a better salary and thus betraying our God. It seems that Russian propaganda is trying to find a way to dehumanize and vilify its enemy and present them in the worst possible light. Otherwise, it is hard to sell to their citizens why Russian population has to lose their lives and suffer due to the economic sanctions. The enemy is now fighting on the side of Satan, and we Russians are the only hope in the eyes of God. So let us stand together and unite with the army of heaven against the evil army of the Lord of Hell, as Dmitry Medvedev has stated. Of course, many Russians are laughing at this, but some may take it seriously. Denazification didn't work, and now let's see how smart the narrative of desatanization may unite all Russians against the collective West. But what can we expect next if this won't be good enough? How far Russian propaganda can go in trying to justify its invasion? For different audiences, they try different stories, but the religious narrative seems to be quite popular. Unfortunately, many people are buying this narrative. Many people who were probably indifferent to religion for a long time now find their ideological paradise in such unusual expressions of religious thought. Just a few months ago, they didn't even think about Satanism, but now they are convinced that the last days are approaching and they are fighting against the army of Satan. Friends, if you liked this video, please consider to like and subscribe to my channel, and please also check my other videos. For example, this review about religion under Gorbachev and how the Russian government rejected Soviet-style anti-religious approach and created a foundation for religious revival in the early 1990s. Thank you for watching until the end.